Rama and the fall of a nation. Why Albania's prime minister must step down after 12 years of power. 12 years in power is more than enough to judge a man's legacy, especially one who promised rebirth but left behind fatigue, cynicism, and a nation in silent decay. When Rama became prime minister in 2013, he spoke the language of hope, Renaissance, Europe, transparency, justice. Yet after more than a decade, Albania stands poorer, more corrupt, and more divided than it was when he first walked into the prime minister's office. Behind the modern rhetoric, digital propaganda, and flashy towers of Tirana lies a darker truth, a state captured by a single man's will, a democracy stripped of its essence, and a government whose main legacy is the normalization of corruption. 1. The promise and the reality. Rama began as an artist-politician, charismatic, visionary, and articulate. His early image as the reformist mayor of Tirana made many believe he could lead Albania into Europe's modern age. But leadership built on image eventually collapses when reality catches up. 12 years later, Albania is ranked among Europe's poorest nations, with one of the continent's highest emigration rates and weakest public institutions. Instead of a European Albania, Rama built a political empire, centralized, loyal, and lucrative for those close to power. 2. The incinerator scandal, the symbol of institutional rot. If one story defines the Rama era, it is the incinerator affair, a €430 million corruption web involving waste management plants in Elbasan, Fier, and Tirana. Contracts were awarded to offshore companies with falsified documentation. Former ministers Lefty Koka and Alki Blako were arrested, while others in Rama's cabinet signed off on the deals. The prime minister's office itself oversaw payments long after it was clear the projects were fraudulent. Despite overwhelming evidence and parliamentary inquiries, Rama has never taken responsibility. The government's defense, "I was not informed," is a political farce in a country where every major tender requires the prime minister's approval. The incinerator scandal was not an exception. It was the system itself. Public money recycled into private pockets, then used to finance propaganda and elections. 3. The Great Construction Boom and the laundering of power. Over the past decade, Tirana has transformed into a vertical forest of glass towers. Rama's allies praise it as progress. Critics call it the Dubai of corruption. According to Transparency International and local watchdogs, the construction sector is now the main vehicle for money laundering, often through shell companies that purchase land and sell luxury apartments in cash. The Anaza-e-Mata project alone revealed forged documents, phantom companies, and inflated costs of more than €20 million. Meanwhile, citizens displaced from their homes were left without compensation. The Durrës port privatization, a multi-billion-dollar deal signed with Emirati investors, bypassed parliament and state tender procedures entirely. Experts warn it could become the largest transfer of public property in Albanian history. In the name of modernization, Rama has sold the country's urban future to the highest bidder. 4. The justice reform that never was. Rama's justice reform, launched with US and EU support, was supposed to cleanse the system. Instead, it created new centers of power loyal to him. SPAC, Special Anti-Corruption Structure, has indeed arrested some former officials, but selectively. High-profile allies remain untouched, while opposition figures face aggressive prosecution. The reform removed corrupt judges, yes, but it replaced them with fearful bureaucrats who now serve the same political interests under a different name. Albania's judiciary is no longer corrupt. It is obedient. 5. The drug state. From 2013 to 2017, Albania became the cannabis capital of Europe. Entire villages in Lazarat, Dekagjan, and Tepelin were transformed into open plantations. Despite multiple police operations, the trade adapted, moving from cannabis to cocaine and heroin. Investigations by Europol and Der Spiegel linked several major traffickers directly to Socialist Party officials. The profits were then laundered through construction and offshore accounts. While Rama boasts of fighting crime, Albania's name remains synonymous with drug networks. It is not a coincidence. It is political symbiosis. 6. Election manipulations and digital control. In 2021, a scandal erupted, a Socialist Party database containing personal data of nearly 1 million citizens, including their phone numbers, voting preferences, and employment, was leaked to the media. The data was reportedly used by government coordinators to monitor and pressure voters. The OSCE and EU observers reported vote buying, intimidation, and misuse of public resources in both the 2021 national and 2023 local elections. Civil servants were threatened with dismissal if they refused to campaign. Criminal groups acted as vote enforcers in key municipalities. The line between the state and the party has disappeared. Rama governs not by persuasion, but by control, digital, psychological, and institutional. 7. The Exodus. Albania's lost generation. More than 700,000 Albanians have left the country since Rama took office. Hospitals are short of doctors, schools lack teachers, and whole villages are empty. The World Bank reports that Albania's labor force has shrunk by 17% in a decade. For young people, emigration is no longer a dream. It is survival. The government celebrates GDP growth fueled by construction and remittances, but real wages remain stagnant. A country cannot live on towers and tourism alone when its future is boarding buses to Germany. 8. Media capture and propaganda. Rama's government has turned media into a branch of power. Businessmen who criticize him risk losing public contracts. Journalists who investigate government corruption face lawsuits and surveillance. Rama communicates through long monologues on Facebook, bypassing the press entirely. His team floods social media with orchestrated praise, a digital dictatorship disguised as engagement. According to Reporters Without Borders, Albania's media freedom has fallen 20 places since 2016. The message is clear: control the narrative, and the truth becomes optional. 9. Foreign policy for self-promotion. Rama has cultivated the image of a Balkan statesman, a modernizer bridging east and west. But much of his diplomacy serves personal visibility, not national interest. His partnership with Aleksandar Vučić under the Open Balkan Initiative alienated Kosovo and divided Albanian opinion. His government's opaque deals with Turkish and Arab companies have raised concerns about sovereignty and transparency. While posing as a European reformer, Rama has moved Albania closer to the political culture of autocrats, strong on rhetoric, weak on accountability. 10. The moral decay. What unites all these scandals is a single pattern: impunity. No matter the magnitude of theft or abuse, no one at the top ever resigns. Ministers under investigation remain in office until the very end. Parliament operates as a stage, not a check on power. The judiciary fears political consequences, and citizens are too exhausted to protest. The tragedy of Albania is not simply corruption, it is resignation. A society convinced that nothing can change. 11. Why Rama must go. Rama has governed longer than any Albanian leader since communism. In that time, he has concentrated power, politicized institutions, and dismantled democratic norms under the illusion of modernization. He is not a reformer anymore, he is the system itself. His departure would not only open space for political renewal, but would also restore the most essential value of democracy: accountability. If Albania is ever to join the European Union, it cannot do so under a government that mimics the style of Erdogan and Vučić while preaching Brussels. The time for excuses has passed. Albania does not need another renaissance. It needs rebirth, a genuine return to truth, transparency, and law. Rama's exit would not end Albania's problems, but it would mark the beginning of its recovery.